learned so much from being my mother's daughter. My mom would spend hours looking for just the right gift for every child in our extended family. She would smile at a young woman in a store to give her that extra second of recognition. The way her students talked about her showed me that she really saw each one of them, and they knew it. Watching my mom taught me how to be a role model. It's about connection, about communication, about loving and being loved. So how do we learn to love, to trust, to care? For the past 20 years, I've been working with youth, especially girls, helping them connect to their wisdom and learn to make good decisions. And I have seen that having strong role models is so important for young people as they learn to listen to themselves. I began this work before the invention of social media, and I have watched as the relationship between the smartphone and social media has completely changed our relationships, especially the way young people learn to communicate. They're not learning to cultivate intimacy in their friendships. Common Sense Media, an organization working to support youth in the digital age, reported that on average in the United States in 2019, teenagers spent 7 hours and 22 minutes online every day. Nearly all of the time that they're not sleeping or in school, they're interacting with screens and not with people. Another Common Sense study demonstrated that in 2018, texting became the most popular way for teenagers to communicate with their friends. More popular than face-to-face. Young people aren't learning to make eye contact, and it might seem like they want to be on their phones all the time, but they know that something's missing. Last summer, one of my students got a job working at a bar. I thought that was cool. His parents did not. They wanted him to have an internship, something that would boost his resume. When I asked him why he chose that job, he told me, "I need to learn to talk to people." Smart. It's true, many people find community online, which is good, but the more I talk to teenagers and young adults, the more I see that they are alone. When I ask my students to identify that one close friend with whom they can really share, really be vulnerable, most of them can't think of anyone. I realize that this situation can feel overwhelming. It is, but we can make a change. And anyone who has ever tried to tell a teenager to get off a phone knows this is not the way. Instead, we need to offer them something else, another way to connect, someplace else to look for answers. Let's recognize that we, adults, need to be more available to them. Look at them. They need us to model intimate communication. They need us to make eye contact so that they feel seen and they know that we are listening. And I'm not just talking about the relationship between parents and their children. I'm asking, are we, as a generation, really available to the young people around us? Because it might not seem this way all the time, but they do want us to pay attention to them. Making Caring Common, an initiative of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, surveyed over 3,000 18 to 25-year-olds to ask them what they need as they grow up. 70% of the young adults in their survey said they wish they had learned more from their parents about emotional aspects of romantic relationships. 65% wish they had received guidance like this at school. We are failing to prepare young people for what I believe is the most important thing they will do in their lives, to learn to love and develop trusting, caring relationships. In part, this failure is because we have allowed their initiations into adulthood to happen online, without us present. We need to take these moments back. 20 years ago, when I started working with girls, there was this awkward moment of initiation that happened when girls got catcalled on the street. My students were confused by their feelings about this because on the one hand, it was disgusting. On the other hand, it meant that somebody noticed them. Today, that moment has evolved into girls being asked for naked pictures on social media, which usually happens when a girl is alone with her phone. No one is there to witness or support her. And often she's ashamed to share that it happened. When I ask the boys that I work with to identify a similar moment in their online lives, every single one of my students talked about the first time he watched porn. Are these the experiences that we want to define coming of age? In their online lives, young people are being initiated into a world of competition, social comparison, violence, and sexualization. If we continue to abandon our youth in these precious moments of initiation into adulthood, this is the education that they will receive. We can renew our culture if we reclaim our role as elders, reclaim initiations into adulthood, and reclaim our authenticity. So our first step, reclaim eldership. Recognize yourself as an elder, as a mentor to the young people around you, whether you have children or not. Because study after study has demonstrated that relationships with adult mentors support young people's ability to make good choices, cultivate meaningful relationships, and develop self-esteem. My mom was an incredible role model, not just for me, but for so many young people, because she understood that what they need is actually really simple. Young people need adults to listen without judgment. That way they learn not to judge themselves. They need us to trust them so that they learn to trust themselves. And they need us to be honest. That's how we learn to really communicate. It is so easy to point a finger, to blame the internet or social media for the breakdown of our culture. But are we really available to the young people around us? Are we listening? Young people are naturally curious. They're seeking to learn. And it's almost as if they don't need adults anymore. They can find anything online. But is that where we want them to go for answers? We are the solution. Be an elder. If we recognize our responsibility to our youth, then we can become meaningful mentors. And when we do, we can take the next step to reclaim initiations into adulthood. Can we afford to allow these moments to continue to happen online without us present? We need to recognize and celebrate the transformational moments in young people's lives, the moments that really change us. We need to support them by giving them meaningful information as they grow into adults. Sometimes initiations happen naturally, but we also need to choose particular milestones, whichever ones are meaningful to you, and celebrate them. What did you learn from your parents about what it means to become an adult, to grow from a girl into a woman or from a boy into a man? And what do you want to share with the next generation? How do you want to recognize moments like losing a tooth, or a girl's first menstruation, or moving out of your parents' house? Imagine 3 or 4 generations of your community, women in your community, coming together to share their wisdom with your daughter when she's around 12 or 13 years old, taking her first steps as a young woman. I do this kind of work with communities. I ask the adults who are coming to think in advance about what stories they want to share, what advice they want to give. And the experience is really powerful for everyone because the elders realize that the young people really do want to hear what they have to say, and the youth feel enveloped by love. If we hope to renew our culture, we need to be present. We need to initiate young people to have a set of skills that will help them cultivate meaningful relationships. Skills like listening, empathy, and honest communication. And to do that, we have to ask ourselves, am I modeling these skills? Which brings me to our third step, to reclaim authenticity. If we don't do that, then the first 2, eldership and initiations, will mean nothing. Young people will not listen to us. They will not respect us if we're not authentic. They can see right through us. When I showed a draft of this talk to one of my students, the first thing he said to me was, I am not looking to your generation as an example. The adults around me are not listening. They're rarely vulnerable. And I'm not sure they're being honest. I know it's hard, but we have to ask, am I being real? Or do I care more about what other people think of me? In the culture that I grew up in, I learned really clearly that the way other people saw me defined the way I felt about myself. That was really hard. And I imagine that many of you understand what I mean. So what do we do? I definitely remember the times when adults showed me a different example. When I was in 8th grade, there was this heated conversation going on in our class about sex, and one of my friends blurted out, "But is sex fun?" And our teacher stood up, slammed her fists on the desk, and screamed, "Yes!" I had never heard such an unfiltered message about sex from an adult. I remember it today. That was almost 30 years ago. Don't be afraid for the young people around you to see you share your feelings. Don't worry if they see the parts of ourselves that we don't love. We don't have to hide. There are enough messages telling them that they need to be something, to fit an image. Let them see us as real. Let them see how we really feel and that we see them. That's what being authentic looks like. Let's be that example. If there is one thing that I can do to truly honor my mother's legacy, it's to be that kind of a role model. To be authentic, to show my vulnerability, to love generously, to witness and celebrate moments of initiation, to give people, young people, the love, care, and attention they deserve. They need those kinds of relationships, and so do we. The internet is not that role model, but we are. Thank you.